What's up, YouTube? My name is Immortal Coil. I'm a philosopher, I'm a musician, I'm a martial artist, and I am a eternal seeker of truth. And I'm also a lifelong Star Trek fan. Today we're gonna review the Star Trek Continues webisode, Pilgrim of Eternity. Now, I first became aware of this through a interaction with Doomcock, whose channel is going to be linked below. He had a broadcast called Sunday Afternoon Stream, which features Mecha Radnum, Tom Connors, who I always want to call John Connor and think he travels time, from Midnight's Edge, and of course, our Eldritch God, HARVEY CTHULHU. So, hail all you motherfuckers. Links to all those channels will be in the description below. And parental advisory, they have a potty mouth, just like me. They say fuck words. Yeah. So what spurned this conversation was actually a live chat about ancient astronaut theory, which I'm very passionate about. Ancient astronaut theory posits that at some time in Earth's past, we were visited by advanced beings who influenced our culture and taught us rudimentary arts and may have had a hand in fashioning our genome. The most famous modern proponents of ancient astronaut theory is Erich von Däniken, who wrote Chariots of the Gods, and Zecharia Sitchin, who wrote the Earth Chronicles series, which includes the 12th Planet and Genesis Revisited. Probably the most famous thing that arose from this was a meme, which was like this. So, towards the end of the live stream, I sent the above mentioned ladies and gentlemen, or robots, and eldritch gods, whatever pronouns. Like, we're living in this age of pronouns. Fuck pronouns. All you motherfuckers. How about that? All y'all. Let's use a southern colloquialism. All y'all. I sent out a super chat about the old series Star Trek, the original series. Who mourns for Adonis? Now, this was an episode which kind of played on the idea of ancient astronaut theory, and the way that they went about it was that Apollo wasn't necessarily a god, but was perceived as a god by primitive humans. And not only that, this was a race of beings from a world who could utilize the worship of human beings to prolong their life because they had a special organ in their body, okay? And they can turn that worship into something sustainable. So that's the mythological ambrosia that was, the source of their immortality. And then once humans turned towards technology and educating themselves in other pursuits, there was no more use for the gods, so they went off towards the stars. Okay, and then in the episode, Captain Kirk encounters the visage of somebody who claims to be Apollo, and he figures out the technological and organic interface of these beings and thwarts the agenda of Apollo, which was basically he wanted to restart his campaign, make Apollo great again. And that's not a dig at Republicans, okay? I'm an independent. I can see greatness and faults in every fucking platform, and you can debate me about that if you want. But basically, Mr. Scott, he's in love with this girl, Carolyn, and Apollo shows up, and he's all like fucking chiseled, and he's like perfect Adonis, right? Who mourns for Adonis. And for a moment, she's tempted. She's a tiny bit swayed. Um, but in the end, she can't abide by his punishment reward system. So, you know, Kirk and his crew takes him down, or at least reduces him to a non-threat. Okay. Uh, so now we arrive at this thing called Star Trek Continues. Now, I was a bit skeptic at first. It's like Star Trek Continues, huh? And it's a web series. How good can that be? Uh, well, it was a web series that ran from 2013 to 2017. It was a non-profit ran by Trek Continues Incorporated and Dracogen. Draco, interesting term. And it was at a time backed by Far From Home LLC and Farragut Films. An interesting thing is that they were funded by an Indiegogo, who several of our friends have reaped crazy profits from, and Kickstarter, which is similar but obviously not as successive as the properties we were tacitly referring to earlier. The premise of the show is that they are fleshing out the 2 final years of the 5-year mission. Now, famously, the original series was canceled after 3 years, despite massive letter writing campaigns and grassroots support. CBS or Paramount or whoever, DeSalu. They weren't as keen on that idea, or as forward thinking as the populace was hungry for. And especially after it went into syndication and you could see it every like Friday or Saturday night, there was just this rabid frothing at the mouth kind of thing that eventually peaked in Saturday Night Live.
Get a life, will you, people? Crying out loud, it's just a TV show.
Get alive. Okay, so I'm gonna actually give you guys a time index. So go to Doomcock Sunday afternoon stream. I'm gonna put it in the description, and let's react to it.
Immortal Coil, a $2 super chat. Thank you, Immortal Coil. And he says, who mourns for Adonis, ancient astronaut, the original series episode? Who mourns for Adonis was a great episode. I love that one. Lieutenant Carolyn Palamas, Leslie, oh God, what was her last name? Leslie, I forget. She was fantastic in that role.
Nielsen?
She was hot.
Leslie Nielsen, yeah.
Not Leslie Nielsen.
In drag. Well, you know.
Gorgeous lady. Gorgeous.
He looked beautiful in makeup, I gotta say. They also did a wonderful sequel to that. I think is their pilot episode of Star Trek Continues. So I absolutely recommend that you guys watch Who Mourns for Adonis and then go over and watch Star Trek Continues, that episode following up on Apollo. And they even got the actor who played Apollo to reprise the role. And then I recommend watching Mirror Mirror and then their sequel to Mirror Mirror, which was absolutely perfect. Star Trek Continues is the true spiritual ancestor to Star Trek.
I really need to check it out. And I know a lot of people have like requested us to talk about it on like the Trek log or something like that, which isn't a bad idea.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, it deserves it. It really should be discussed. Thank you, Immortal Coil, for that. John.
Okay. So, on to the meat of the topic. Uh, Pilgrim of Eternity. That's the premiere episode of Star Trek Continues. Now, I'm not going to go into spoilers because obviously the episode's in the link below. I want you guys to watch it and have your own experience of it outside of my impressions. Okay. The synopsis, I wrote this out. A dying Apollo begs Captain Kirk for passage to an N-class world where he may live out his final days in anonymity amongst mortal humans. Kirk is hesitant, and Scotty is downright antagonistic due to his love for Carolyn. So I would do as our overlord commands and watch Who Mourns for Adonis and then watch Pilgrim of Eternity. Because they're very much related. Overall, my rating for this episode is going to be 8 out of 10. Now, why you ask? So, let's go over several aspects of this. The production value. I define this as the perfect blend of the original series cheese with the next generation idealism. So what does that mean? So production value wise, we have like space scene exteriors that are consistent with what we saw in the classic 60s version. So it's not this J.J. Abrams like hyper fucking realistic redesigned, you know, warp speed and a stupid looking ship and all that kind of stuff. No, like they actually went through painstaking means to recreate the angles and the trajectory of the models that they used in the 60s. Except I suspect that this is probably CGI. If they actually went out of their way to do miniatures and shoot it with like, you know, the ILM technology, the speed control, all that kind of shit, then I would be highly impressed. But I can't speak to that point because I just now was introduced to that series. The sets. The sets are pristine. Now the production quality is also pristine, but they replicate angles and they have all the same sound effects and the bridge and engineering and the corridors and the turbo lifts and sick bay, even down to the monitors in sick bay, all were like spot fucking on. I couldn't believe it. Like I was highly impressed. Now we get down to the issue of cast, and this is the first thing that actually strikes you when you watch the show, is that the faces that you're used to are not the same faces. So we're going to do a rundown. Kirk is portrayed by Vic Mignogna. Spock is portrayed by Todd Haberkorn. Bones is Chuck Huber. Scotty is Chris Doohan. Interesting note, that is the son of James Doohan, the original Scotty. You know, do you mind rephrasing that? And then in the Dyson Sphere episode, it is green. And he goes, yep. Then we have Sulu, portrayed by Grant Imahara. Then we have Uhura, portrayed by Kim Stinger. And then Chekhov is portrayed by Wyatt Lenhart. And then the guest stars. This is what I found more interesting because of who they dug up and who they chose to promote. Okay. First of all, we have Dr. McKenna, portrayed by Michelle Specht. Yeah, I like me some redheads. Apollo, portrayed by the original actor, Michael Forrest. So, Who Mourns for Adonis? Same guy. And without giving too much away, they portray him initially as an extremely elderly man who somehow regains a little bit of strength, and then goes on to do something that you need to watch the show to really fucking understand. Good character arc, especially since it's basically a continuity from the '60s. Okay, they did him justice. I like that. And then my most pleasant surprise is the voice of the computer. None other than Marina Sirtis. Now here's what's interesting about that, is that the original series and the Next Generation, as well as Voyager, DS9, yeah, they all, and the movies, okay, the Next Generation series of movies, they all featured Majel Barrett as the voice of the computer. And in the Next Generation, Majel Barrett portrayed the mother of the character that Marina Sirtis portrayed, Deanna Troi. So, Luoxana Troi, Deanna Troi, and they're all the ship's computer voices. That's an insane bit of logic that like really tickled my nerd bone. And, you know, yeah. So my initial concern was the faces, and I was just like, okay. And then the acting was really good at times, but kind of like clunky at times. But this is the first episode, so you gotta give them a little lattice on that. The thing that actually puts this thing over the field goal was the writing. Okay? Now, as much as I bitch about Star Wars and the lack of respect for the characters, these writers get Star Trek. And it only took me like about 5 minutes to get over the new faces before I was injected into the story and actually giving a shit about these people again. And I can't help but wish that J.J. Abrams in his film feature would have utilized a similar approach. But in the space of an hour, Star Trek Continues and Pilgrim of Eternity blew the fucking Star Trek reboot out of the water. And the only saving grace of that film feature was that it takes place in an alternate universe. Okay, Spock time travels, and he basically fucks up the continuity of everything that we thought we knew, which is a plausible deniability if we're talking about like killing the president, which we're not. No, Trump and whoever's like in office after this is perfectly safe from us. But it provides us that like that mental out. If we think that this is horse shit, then we don't have to believe in it because it's alternate. You know, time travel changes everything. So what do you guys think? I'd like you to watch the episode, leave a comment. Go definitely to the people who recommended this shit to me and follow them, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and you know, let them know what you think, because our franchises, our sci-fi franchises and our comic book franchises and our basically our escapist entertainment are under attack by social engineering elements. Now, it's easy to say social justice warriors, but there are people holding those puppet strings, and they're not going to get the best of us, because I think we're smarter than that. I think that we have more unity than that, and if we truly want to see the type of utopia that was envisioned by Gene Roddenberry's, subconscious mind, or fully conscious mind, That would be more interesting. Then we'll unite, and we're not gonna like let race or class or gender or any of that shit separate us the way that the people screaming in the streets with signs want us to be. You know, we are one. As it was, then again it will be. My name is Immortal Coil. Appreciate your time.